What's up, guys? So I'll try to make this short and sweet. We have a new fusion coming up. It's going to be releasing June 5th, which is going to be next Thursday. The Dwarf is going to look like this dude right here. I got a feeling this is going to be part of the collab event, if there is a collab event, which, with that said, I had mentioned God of War being a potential collab, and I don't think that's the situation. I looked up some God of War dwarves, and they look nothing like this whatsoever, and I don't know if God of War even has dwarves, to be honest, because the wiki pages looked a little bit weird. But either way, this dwarf, I've heard some talks of Warhammer 40k, and they didn't give us any background information as far as like a screenshot of the character with the background there, because it could give away too much info. So let me know, would a Warhammer, or what background would be too obvious that Plarium wouldn't show that, or a different version of the skills? This is all they've given us, so let me know what you think. Warhammer could be it. I have absolutely no clue. I'm hoping it's a fairly big IP that we recognize. But either way, let's jump into this champion's skills, or at least what Plarium says he should be doing. So he's a force affinity attack-based dwarf, which is pretty cool. Real quickly, look in the index, we go to dwarves, and we see, okay, a decent amount of force affinity champions here, but no attack base that we're actually going to use. So a force nuker is pretty interesting. I don't mind that whatsoever. Tholen Foulbeard is a versatile damage dealer, well suited for both PvE and PvP content. He's also top tier choice against Corrosa the Covetous. That's good to know. Also, this is going to be a classic fusion, meaning you have to fuse the most likely rares into the epics and then the epics into the legendaries, so it's going to be a bit challenging. But he's apparently going to be very good for the event dungeon. Then his A1 ability is an AoE attack with a chance to place weaken before the hit that goes up if the target is from the corrupted, a boss, or a minion. Tholen gets an extra turn if the weaken debuff lands on all enemies. That's very, very cool. A2 is a strong single target double hitter that ignores 25% of the opponent's defense and doubles it against the corrupted champions, bosses, and minions. So just as a refresher, the corrupted is going to be, your Commoduses and Carnages, your Siphies, Theodosias, Calamitous. Dark Elves are going to be Mithralas, and the Night Revs are going to be, Embries, Crixia, and Korra, Narses, all that kind of good stuff. So quite a few champions who are very meta in the current PvP environment that he will be doubling the damage against. And of course, Corrosa, he'll be having that double damage as well. Very cool. Each hit will decrease the enemy's attack while simultaneously boosting his own. The strong single target double hitter. Okay, so the double hit is good against Rhodos, assuming he doesn't have the Ward of the Fallen. His A3, or Aspect of Siroth. His A3 is a massive AoE double hitter that ignores unkillable and shield buffs. Tholen boosts his attack before attacking, and the second hit's damage increases by 10% for each critical hit scored during the first hit. So, assuming he's not weak hitting, you're going to hit 5 enemies or 4 enemies and then boost his second hit by 40 or 50%. This dude, depending on what his multipliers are, could be very, very strong damage dealing. Or he could be useless. We have no clue. He doesn't bring any debuffs other than weaken. No other debuffs, so it's going to be interesting. His passive triggers his A1 for bonus damage and an extra chance at an extra turn. Additionally, champions from the corrupted bosses and minions cannot land critical hits on Tholen. That's very, very interesting. However, being force affinity is nice, you could get some weak hits, but even without crits, he may just die depending on how tanky he is. Typically, damage dealers aren't very tanky. So here are his actual skills. So the AoE attack, weaken, extra turn if weaken is placed on everybody. We have some books over here as well. The weaken is going to book up to 60, 75% chance. So it's not even 100% chance. The chances of weaken being placed on everybody is not going to be amazing, but I guess we're going to see how it actually plays out. This effect can't be resisted, but it could just not place, right? His A2 has no information about the multipliers. Of course, that never does. But the cooldown can be decreased by 1 from the books. Pretty cool. So 3-turn cooldown. Each hit decreases the target's attack by 5% up to 25% and increases his attack by up to 50%. That is huge. 50% attack boost. Plarium has been really liking scaling these champions from their abilities for a while now. We have champions like Harima, champions like Ninja, champions like Thor, right? He-Man, a lot of different champions who are very, very strong with this scaling stuff. Toshiro and Thorion, other champions who scale when they do something special. There's more than that, but those are just the ones off the top of my head. Then his A3, AoE attack 2 times, places increased attack on this champion before attacking, which is the way to do it. This could very likely be a very, very powerful ability. So this tells me we don't have to run him with the increased attack champion. You could run him as like a Lysandra as your speed booster, something like that. Have him a bit slower. He's going to place his own increased attack. He's going to buff the second hit of that AoE double hitter based on how many crits he lands. So of course you're building him with crit rate. Ignoring unkillable and shield is awesome. I would really like it if this was ignoring block damage as well, but I guess we'll see how good he is when he actually releases. But block damage is becoming something more and more common with Odin placing block damage, Marichka placing block damage, Niame placing block damage. So I would love to have seen that, but either way, unkillable and shield is huge. And then activates his A1 skill every 5th turn this champion takes. Enemies from the corrupted, bosses and minions cannot land critical hits on this champion. Now, I'm not really sure why this says his passive triggers his A1 for bonus damage and an extra chance and an extra turn. Oh, wait. So that's actually interesting. I thought it was a extra chance. Okay, that's different than what I was expecting it to be. But the way it reads, we'll have to see if this is actually how it works, is every 5th turn he takes, he's going to do, okay, say we have the 5th turn doing this A3 skill. We're going to blast everybody with the A3 skill, and then we're going to automatically use the A1. If the A1 places weaken on everybody, then we get an extra turn. That's pretty cool. That's actually awesome. So it does bring up one potential issue, though. You're going to have to build him with accuracy if you want to do that. So I do think he could be like a good spider solo farming champion. But if you're going to build him with accuracy, you're obviously taking it away from your other stats. He doesn't do increased accuracy. So it may be a situation where you end up saying, forget building him with accuracy at all. I don't need that weaken. It's cool, but it's reducing my other skills too much. So we're just going to go full damage. I don't necessarily see that as a bad thing. He's still going to do this every time. The only difference you have is now, one, he can't be polymorph because he's not going to place the weaken, right? So this is definitely some polymorph bait in a way. But besides that, now you just lose that chance at the extra turn if weaken was placed on everybody, which is already going to be a pretty unlikely situation in PvP content because there's going to be plenty of Spirit Affinity champions potentially, or just champions you get resisted by. If you're not building with very much resistance, you're just not likely to get that extra turn. So not having any increased accuracy as well is going to make it a bit more difficult to build him to actually get that extra turn. So how I expect for him to be built is basically just all out raw damage, maybe 9-piece Merciless if you had that, but I'd say more common is going to be 4-piece Stone Skin, 4-piece Savage, or Lethal. Built to hit really hard, relatively fast, probably 260 or so, 250, depending on where you're at in the arena. Could be 220, 200, but built fast to hit hard and just do some good damage. And then against the Covetous, the boss, we'll have to see how he fits in there. Maybe he does great, but then again, maybe he just doesn't. We'll have to see. Because there's a lot of times where Plarium says, hey, this champion's going to be great in this area, but when the boss actually is released, turns out he's not really great at that area. But either way, seems to be a very strong nuker for dwarves, which if we look at dwarves, we have Trunda, of course, is a good nuker, Herndig. As far as attack-based nukers, we have a Krizzy. A Krizzy is a boss nuker, so not really the same thing as a PvP nuker. We have New Uzol, Arnorn. I feel like an attack-based nuker in dwarves is okay. We do have a lot of champions in dwarves. There's definitely champions we could have used a little bit better, but to be honest, a good fusion dwarf is something that I think was good. So we'll have to see how difficult this classic fusion actually is to complete. I'm hoping it's not going to be too bad. Let's see if we have a Marius Soul here. No Marius Soul, unfortunately, but I got a feeling it's going to be a somewhat difficult fusion. Stay tuned for the epic and the review on the epic champion involved in this. Once that information is released, I'll do some tests on the test server as soon as possible. But either way, guys, thank you all very much for watching. Let me know what you guys think about this champion. What collab is he going to be in? If it's even a collab event, I just assumed it was. Maybe it's not. Either way, thank you all again, and I'll catch you in the next video.